Sorry I'm late. Just a little bit late. You know what they say, though? They say the best streamers are always late. I wouldn't say it's uncommon for me to be late. Let me turn my lights on really quickly. There we go. There we go. I wouldn't say it's uncommon for me to be late. It's not common, though. Maybe I'm in the middle. How's everyone doing today? Are we ready? Yeah, I'm an hour late. Sorry about that. I I lost track of time. I have no real good excuse. I was playing a game online with a friend, and the game went on for a very long time, and I didn't realize how close it was to time. So, my bad. My bad. Um, so let's jump into the news then. Let's jump into the news. I know that we talk about security, and I really only have two things in security for us. And then we're gonna jump pretty much right into some cloud news and talk about maybe Microsoft's latest blunder. But I wanted to start with our security, and we've been talking about some blunders, and security happens to everybody. I would not be the first person to point a finger at a security incident. And a lot of you know that I really focus on how the company handles the security incident. But there are blunders that are so bad and so far out there that they deserve a little call out. And that's what GoDaddy had. I believe this is a blunder you don't recover from quickly and easily. So this is a filing with the Security and Exchange Commission, and you don't recover from this type of security incident. If you go on and to read this, let's see. If you go on and read this, effectively they had a multi-year breach. Multi-year breach where they have been breached for a long time. And like it was a multi-step, and the hackers got their own code in there and made their own backdoors then to their systems, and it's actually pretty amazing. I'm gonna put this in. You should read it. It's gonna be in the chat if you want it. It's pretty spectacular. So, hey Russell. Yeah, this is the multi-year. Yeah. So you just jumped in. I was saying like I stopped talking about a lot of like CVEs unless if I think they're really pertinent to the majority of software engineers. But and I'm not even saying that GoDaddy handled it poorly, because that's the other type of thing that I talk about sometimes, is just when companies handle security incidents poorly. This was this had its own. This deserves some recognition for there was some interesting stuff that happened in here. If you go through and read, there's a lot of stuff in here, but they've been breached for many years. So Anyways, we'll move on to something that is more pertinent to the majority of people, and that's Git. Now, before we get into exactly what happened with Git, there's like basically don't do these. Avoid running git clone with recurse submodules against untrusted repositories, and avoid running git apply or git arm on input from untrusted sources. So this is actually the Git client, a vulnerability in it. So don't think that like, oh well, I don't run my own Git server. I don't run Git on a server. This is you interacting with Git from a server. So somebody on GitHub could actually attack you with this. So it's pretty serious. There are two CVEs involved in this. I think this first one is the more important one here. And both of them revolve around symlinks. Like, who would be surprised? Oh, GoDaddy isn't the only company. Yes, 100% agree with Russell there. GoDaddy won't be the only company. I bet there are many that are leaking data. I agree. Whether now, GoDaddy was like fully breached for a long time. That's probably not as common. I bet you though that there's more companies that are fully breached that don't know it, that have had a key leak or whatnot and are just fully breached and don't know it. But I think like the more standard is probably that there's a lot of companies that are leaking small amounts of data and don't know it. Whether it's a read-only database that they accidentally expose to the public, whether it is a way that they communicate, they don't have TLS on one stream of communication. I would agree. Public S3 buckets, absolutely. Those are the types of things that people don't realize. And sure, it's a random string, but people will find it. Absolutely. That's not a full breach, and GoDaddy was a full breach, which is pretty spectacular. But I bet you most companies actually leak more than you think if you were actually looking for it. A really good example of one that I found interesting. This was a couple of years ago, so I'm going to paraphrase. But Microsoft was doing these things where they organized their teams based off of Slack channels or something like this. And so you could actually check on the validity of a Slack or of a team by checking to see if that team existed in Slack or something like this. And so basically, people were scraping information from Microsoft by checking for the existence of these different teams and things like that. So anyways, it can even get as nuanced as that, like, oh, this doesn't exist in this, so they couldn't access the teams. It was just anyways. Back on to Git though. Back on to Git. Who would have guessed symlinks? That's what I was going to say. Symbolic links. So this first one here, is a specially crafted repository can trick Git into using its own local clone. So basically, Git has two versions of clone. There's a remote clone that happens for remote servers, and a local clone that is actually really fast. So it just uses like the systems to copy the information and clone the information. So it's much faster than using the remote clone. So basically, what this attack here does is it will what it was doing was Git will abort from repositories that contain a symbolic link, but the top level objects directory may itself be a symbolic link, and this is how they do that and get you that way. So basically, they are combining two things of how Git works. They're using the local clone for a remote repository with the symbolic links to actually make this attack. This is the more pertinent one because basically then they can get any information they want off of your computer. The second one allows for applying arbitrary patches to your repository's history with git apply. So basically, they can trick this the git apply with malicious patches. And again, I don't know how exactly this one works specifically. I didn't dig into this one too much, but this is again a classic supply chain problem. So I'm going to put this in chat for all of you to read if you like. Have fun with it. But yeah, so definitely you want to upgrade Git, especially. I think that there are a decent. I don't like submodules personally. I try to avoid them. But if you do heavily use submodules or are looking at a project that does, this could actually affect your local computer. And that's really it for the news security. Did anybody else see anything security wise other than multi-year attacks? Now, I'll give you guys just a little bit of time to respond if there was anything that you saw. Please shoot me links if you do see something, or bring it up in chat right now. While I'm waiting for that, this next thing, we're going to move on to the cloud. We're going to start with Microsoft. We all love to hate on Microsoft. I do believe that's a fair statement. I do believe it's a fair statement, and they've earned it in the past. I think they've done a lot better recently, but I think they earned it in the past. Oh, Twitter dropping SMS two-factor authentication? Let's pull that up. Do you have a link for that? Are you saying that they are dropping two-factor authentication or that the SMS variant? Because I think SMS two-factor authentication is bad in general. One second, I think I found it. Let's bring this up. Yeah, so this is awesome. Bring stuff. Oh, only Twitter Blue now. Oh. Well, I think text messages are a pretty bad way, right? Yeah, so authentication app is still available and security keys? Okay. A little rant here. Just a little rant. I'm going to do just a little rant because yeah. Security. And I actually would say this with like WAFs for the cloud. Although I know WAFs, have an actual cost, so I'm fine with them being charged for. You shouldn't be charged for using them. You should be charged for the stuff that goes through them. So what I'm saying with that was like with a WAF, you shouldn't be charged that I created a WAF. You should be charged for traffic going through it because it has an actual cost to the people that maintain that WAF. And a WAF, for those of you who don't know, is a wide it's a wide area network firewall. So it's just an application firewall for your application for your cloud. So you can think of it as like your F9 firewall that would sit in your normal rack. That's what that WAF is. Now, like I said, I don't actually like SMS, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. If somebody has my phone unlocked, then SMS as a two-factor authentication is useless because they click on Twitter and it sends them the two-factor authentication. If you have Authy, it's actually locked. Mine is locked. It should be locked with a password if you're trying to actually be secure. And that requires them to crack yet another thing. And two-factor authentication is there to buy you time. So your phone got stolen, you can reset your passwords now. That's what it's there for. Now, my other thing is, I also support that I would be slightly angry, or I am a slightly angry. Security should never be a paid feature. I just don't think it is. It's like, I hate it that safety is a paid feature in cars. You know, like you can upgrade your car and get more safety feature. That really annoys the garbage out of me. Like, really annoys me. I shouldn't have more safety for paying. I should pay for other things like heated seats or a faster acceleration or whatever I want to pay extra for. Safety shouldn't be one of them. And the same with security. I should never need to pay for security. Now, I guess SMS probably has a cost to it, whereas authenticator apps don't. And so I guess I could be okay with it if that's the case. If that was the call, is that SMS has a cost, and so that they're just not going to do it. Yeah. But again, I don't like I don't like SMS two-factor authentication. So like in general, I would have just, if this was me and it has a cost and that's why you wanted to put it behind a paywall, I'd be like, hey, we're just not supporting SMS. You need a security key. You need an application. I had this argument with a friend of mine that's much bigger in security about security keys versus. So, all of you know that I'm a big fan of the YubiKeys. And we had an argument about YubiKey versus Authy, the authentication app, about which one's more secure. Because to me, the YubiKey is less secure if I'm a targeted attack. And they tended to agree that the YubiKey, if I was being targeted, is less secure because somebody can steal it and pretty much just go use it. But the cool part about a YubiKey that makes it more secure in general, because if you're part of a targeted attack, you're probably screwed anyways. But what makes it more secure in general is if somebody finds my YubiKey in a coffee shop, there's not much they can do about it. They don't know what accounts it's tied to. They don't know anything about me. They know nothing about it. So unlike a phone, if they found my phone and somehow figured out how to unlock it, and then also unlock Authy, they would know exactly what everything was tied to. That's the idea. That's the idea. Sorry, I apologize for going on that. You guys, you this was your fault. Me and two-factor authentication. We go back. We go back. How do you guys like having the chat on screen? You guys like that? Let me know. Let me know. I thought this would be nice so people could see, especially if people watch this after time. I know when I recorded on YouTube, people did watch it afterwards. There was a couple people. If they're still doing that, I thought this was kind of a nice thing to do. Yes, you can. You can. So as soon as you know you've lost a YubiKey, you can reject it. So basically, you can say that YubiKey is no longer valid. 100%. Yep. Now you can also lock Authy as well. So I mean, the idea is the faster you act, the faster you can make sure people don't get access. I need to do a video on YubiKeys. I actually really like. I should reach out to see if they want to sponsor me. I would do the video anyways, which means I feel okay if they would sponsor me in doing a video because, like, I would do it anyways. So I need to go reach out to them, see if there would be some way that I could get them in your guys' hands, see if I couldn't give like a giveaway sponsored by them, which would be really cheap for them. And because I really do like YubiKeys, there's some others as well. I just use YubiKey. They were kind of the first one there. They actually have some nice ones now that have near field communication, so you can just like hold them up to the back of your phone. Makes it very much easier for my wife to actually use a YubiKey. So yeah. All right, let's talk Microsoft. Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. We were talking Microsoft. Give me a second. Um, we were about to talk about Microsoft. Now, Microsoft has a history. 2016 was when this history started. Um, and I want to take you guys back on memory lane because it feels a little deja vu-ish for me and Microsoft. Now, this isn't particularly Azure, but it's Microsoft, and I'm sure Azure is wanting to get some of it in there. We'll see here that Azure has this new feature here: public preview Azure Communication Service chatbot, chat for bot frameworks. But more importantly, I think this is probably powered by their ChatGPT collusion. But yeah, I haven't gotten accepted there yet. I tried to get accepted into the earlier program. You guys know that I like testing these things out and seeing, but it seems like Bing is starting to get a little unhinged. And like I found a couple people reporting it. Bing's AI claims that it's sentient. The New York Times said that Bing AI chat, I want to be alive. Then there's this one that there's creating alternate personalities, but this one actually didn't scare me because it didn't come up with the name Skynet, and thus I have no fear of a Venom AI. Like, really, I really don't have any real fear. Now, if it had been like, I want to be called Skynet, okay, now I'm starting to worry a little bit, but this is fine. But if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, little history memory lane here. If any of you remember Tay, the chatbot, the artificial intelligent chatbot that Microsoft created in 2016, this was a glorious bit of history for Microsoft. Tay learned from Twitter. That's what Tay did. Tay learned from Twitter. A clever AI wouldn't use Skynet as their node. People would. But see, you'd be sus of it. See, but maybe I'm more sus of it because it's not using Skynet. Because I'm thinking it's being clever. So the clever thing to do would be to use the thing people would expect you to do because they would expect you not to do it. All right, moving on. This sounded so much like Tay. Tay was, I want to say that Tay actually learned pretty well. It learned that the internet was a garbage place with garbage people on it, and learned to communicate with them like they're natively wanted to be communicated with. Anyways, I enjoyed this week of Microsoft chatbot history. It just brings me back to 2016. Simpler times. Simpler times. All right. I'm sorry. I had to bring this up. Anyways, the Azure Communication Service did release a chat for bot framework. Chat for bot seems. I think it should just be chat bot framework, but no. Now, I again have to assume this is powered by the same madness going on here, so I'm not sure how much you want to rely on it just yet. It is just public preview, not even a beta, so yeah. There's general availability of Azure Functions Linux Elastic Premium Plan, increasing maximum scale-out limits. So this more than doubled the France Central. North Europe, sucks to be you, didn't get a big boost. But South Central US, South UK got some pretty big ones, and US West more than doubled again. So if you've struggled with this, there you go. Yes, that's what I was seeing with this. Is it's like a Chat GPT API that's more available now. Serverless hyperscale and Azure SQL database. So again, when I see a cloud provider say serverless, I think consumption-based pricing, like purely consumption-based pricing, which is something cool that we're going to get into GCP, that they're making kind of a big change, and I think we should probably talk about it. I just really wanted to talk about their Tay blender because it felt so good. I love Tay. Tay was a fantastic um, experiment. So other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of other stuff here in the stuff that I went over. There was a bunch of stuff like public preview of SDK type bindings. I don't know enough. More Python support and minor updates like that, but nothing too major that I saw. While we're talking about Microsoft, I'm going to lump in GitHub with Microsoft and Azure. I know that they're kind of separate and they function fairly separately, but it is owned by Microsoft. They had one thing, a more powerful AI model and better code suggestions. Now, so they released an update to Copilot. You guys know that I've been testing them out. I have to say, and I want you to watch my video because I am working pretty hard on that script and some animations for it. AI Copilot is by far my favorite out of them at this point. Now I have a few last tests, and those tests could blow me out of the water. But so far, from what I've seen, Copilot has the best suggestions. Now they go into here with like code acceptance rate, and I was digging into this a little bit because they consider when I press tab that I've accepted the code, but I would say a lot of the time that I accept the code GitHub is offering, I have to make corrections to it. It's not a acceptance doesn't mean that 35% of the time I don't touch it. It's probably like 2% of the time that it recommends something that I actually just use it as is. A lot of the times it needs updated. Sometimes it's just so wrong that it causes more confusion. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out because I saw that in this graph, and this acceptance rate is a little misleading when you're thinking about it. But it's still pretty awesome. And honestly, for $10 a month, I think that's what enterprises get charged. I would recommend it. I think that it makes me $10 a month faster. I think that's an easy win. If you work on open source, you can actually get access to it for free, which is also really cool. All right. Azure didn't, or AWS, I didn't see a whole lot. I didn't see anything that was groundbreaking. There was this Amazon managed Grafana now supports network access control. So this is letting you support your inbound access and basically just restrict who has access to Grafana workspaces. And this is their fully managed Grafana. So this is really nice, especially been trying to do this and dealing with this. Now, talking about all this bots and ChatGPT and Bing and Tay, it seems like AWS is, and they've always had a conversation and they've always had their legs, but it seems like everybody's racing now to improve their chatbot functions and whatnot. So you have more network of bots can be enabled via Lex v2 console. And it seems like they're building out a lot of things for these conversational bots. And I really see probably a big heat up in this area. Now, whether it's actually useful, then yeah. Yeah, okay, so that's actually a really great thing to call out, Russell. A big caveat. If you work on open source that is deemed worthy by Microsoft, you can get it for free. It needs to be a big open source project. Russell's not wrong. Full transparency, Copilot is the one that I don't pay for. So because I've committed code to, I think it's probably the committing code to Kubernetes is probably the thing. It might be Kubeflow. I have committed to both of them. I cannot, yeah. So I will be transparent in that in the videos because I paid for all the other ones that allowed me to pay for them. Copilot is the one that I don't pay for. Plus, it's checked every 12 months. Yep. I don't think for personal projects I would pay for it, but yeah, Russell, I don't know. I don't know. That I assume that's probably depends on how much money they want. For me, if it was just personal projects, I don't know that I would just get it myself. But I do think that, especially as a company, it's easy to say that it's $10 productivity. $10 is not a lot when you're talking about it, developers. You're talking about $120 a year. Your a lot of tools cost more than that. So yeah, personally, I probably wouldn't pay for. I mean, obviously, I would do it so I could make my video, but I probably wouldn't keep it. Since I do get it for free, I'm going to continue keeping it until I don't get it for free. But yeah, that's again, full disclosure. I do like it the most though. So anyways, I saw this. So it looks like there was some other announcements around their Lex and around their chatbot, and I saw this research paper. So I'm gonna put this in the chat for you all. I thought that this was a pretty cool research paper that they talked about with their multi-model chain of thought reasoning in language models. So this was released by AWS, their research team did, about how they're using a new multi-model for chain of thought. So basically, this is how the AI, if you ever used ChatGPT, and I don't know that this is how ChatGPT does it, but this is how AWS is doing it, but where you can actually, I guess it's not how ChatGPT 3.5 does it. But it's how their work is doing it and is tying everything together. Supposedly, it's getting a lot better results than ChatGPT is about tying your first question and your second question and your third question. So it's a cool article to read. Ooh, I bet you it will. That's a good statement. So Russell said, I wonder if they will wrap it in a Microsoft Visual Studio subscription. I think that would be brilliant. A Visual Studio subscription is already really powerful. I haven't used it for years, but like 6-7 years ago, debugging low level C++, it was the best tool I could find. The Visual Studio was. If you could get some really good AI in there to just speed stuff up and check for stuff, yeah. So, all right, GCP has some pretty big news. Let's talk about it. Introducing new cloud services and pricing for ultimate flexibility. That was my announcer voice. I want the last time they did something like this, I warned you all that it looked more expensive to run the same thing. This is giving ultimate flexibility. That's my true gamer announcer voice. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. But the last time that they did a revamp of their pricing, it was more expensive. Now, I didn't get all the way into this. I didn't have the time this week to really dig into everything here. But there are a couple key points that I want to go over with because I can't tell you if it's going to get more expensive. I can just tell you historically, the 2 times that they've done it historically, it has gotten more expensive. And so but let's talk about it, because if it's not more expensive, I think it's a good path to go down. Align cost to consumption with auto scaling. So Google has had a hard time with this in a couple of times where auto scaling didn't align to consumption very well. Now, I think they did a really bad graph down here. This was their graph where they are switching to a per minute scaling. I don't think this is anyone else in the market. Honestly, I think they were behind. This might be DigitalOcean, might be. Um, but yeah, so we're gonna have to dig into this a little bit more. Supposedly, it will come at a cost saving, and this is where you have to be really careful, because what happened last time is if you use the service, they said it was a cost savings, but if you use the service exactly how you had been using it, it would cost you more, a lot more. And this was with the last one with their storage. But if you rewrote your application to leverage it properly, it would either not cost you more or cost you a little bit less with the whole overhead of rewriting your app for it. So I don't know with this, but I do like the aligning the cost to consumption. And basically this is taking that, what I call serverless. You pay for what you use. We scale up, you pay for more. We scale down, you pay for less. This is what I think most people think of when they say serverless. They're thinking of a pure consumption model. So there are some updates as well to their flexible CUDs, which I thought their flexible CUDs were really awesome, which actually got AWS and Azure to update theirs to have the same thing, which is amazing. So I believe that GCP was the first one to release their flexible CUDs, and that's amazing. So there was a few updates to these. Again, I don't know any major, but if you're on GCP, I would be reading through this to make sure that you understand the effects to you. And it can be hard. Honestly, the easiest way will be in a month to see if your bill has changed. That's like the easiest way. And that's not a good option. There are some things, if you're like in Kubernetes, you can use KubeCost. There's some ways to be monitoring it, but it can be difficult. Cloudsumption based pricing. That's right. Cloudsumption. Other things in Google Cloud News. I don't know. I didn't see any of this super awesome. Leverage uses BigQuery. This is like not a new thing. This is just them bragging about one of their people. Again, they did release an agent for SAP. So if you want to run SAP on GCP, it should be easier now. I don't know. And then March 29th, hopefully we get a lot of stuff coming out of March 29th. So they have their cloud and AI summit. So I'm really looking forward to it. They're probably going to release a chatbot. Hopefully it's a little bit better than their last release. Yeah. Other things in the cloud. This is something I was worried about. And I think this is almost because they could, which is the sad part. DigitalOcean lays off 11% of their workforce. The thing is, they had an increase of 36% year over year. SAP does have a cloud, yes. I think this is what the Twitter precedent almost set. I'm calling it the Twitter precedent. I don't know if that's the right thing, but they're doing fairly well, and they decided to lay off because it would make them have 20% free cash flow once they've paid off everything. Yeah, 20% free cash flow. I feel like this came about not because they felt like they needed to. Because again, their earnings seemed fine. Now, and I've said this about a lot of the major tech companies, their earnings have seemed fine. Maybe not as good as they were hoping for, but fine. This seemed better than I was expecting them to do as one of the smaller cloud providers, and they decided to lay off 11%. So, yeah. Anyways, I was afraid some of this would be happening. And I really think that DigitalOcean, being the small player in a big pond that they are, this would really hurt them. They need to still be innovating and driving. Like if they ever want to be in the same ballpark, they're not even in little leagues yet. If they want to play in the same ballpark as AWS, they have a lot to do. They have a lot to do. So I hope this doesn't hurt them moving forward. I checked if there was any new products releases, but I think that they laid off the person that does the blog. No real updates. Sorry, that was a joke. That was not a good joke. And that's it for. Yeah, they were once ahead of Cloudflare. They were once the ones that I would recommend. Right now I recommend Cloudflare or Linode. If you're talking about like pure compute, I like Linode a little bit better. Cloudflare has taken a very opinionated approach, which is fine, but it's like I can't get a Kubernetes cluster on Cloudflare. And if I wanted to do like my cloud is based off of Kubernetes, so if I wanted it as the hot backup, I can't because I need a Kubernetes cluster. Period. So Cloudflare is a little bit different. Compute as a service. Cloud not loud. Uh, Cloudflare is definitely in the top 4 of being a loud provider. They are so loud. If you ever go to the Cloudflare's offices, my goodness, are they loud. But yeah, nobody offers compute as a service yet. Gonna trademark that. I agree. I think Cloudflare. I think Linode has a lot to solve. A lot to solve. And that's a hard problem. It's like IAM. You need a good solution for an enterprise to really rely on you. But having a really good solution is hard. No cloud compute. I don't even know what that would be. What would they offer? Is it composting on demand? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Oh dear. This is a blunder on my part. I had a security thing for you all. You know, the multi-year security thing was so on my mind. I made sure that was first, but I had another blunder that was epic in proportion, and I've saved it till later. Oh, Risk. Do you guys want me to offer Risk 5 hosting on these beautiful boards right here? You get 16 megabytes of storage. Now I do have an SD card in there that bumps that up. I forget how much memory these have. Once I can get a Risk 5 board like this, I'm already getting ARM nodes in the cluster. I want to have Risk nodes in the cluster as well. Perfect for compute. Yeah, pretty much. 16 megabytes is perfect for compute. Not enough for compute. As Russell put it, there's about 16 or about 30 frames per day off of that. Anyways, there was another major blunder, another major security blunder that you all need to feast your eyes on. Most of us use firewalls and antiviruses to protect us from viruses and hackers. That's generally what I use them for. It's generally what I've been told other people use them for. Some people use them as clout, like when they boot up their PC at the coffee shop and there's like 12 icons on the bottom that are different antiviruses all vying for viability. And you know, like somebody asks them like, oh, what antivirus are you using? They're like, well, I use 12. But most people use them to keep viruses off their machine. There was a Calm AV blunder. I believe that Calm is owned by Cisco. I'm going to say this is a blunder because it enabled remote code execution on your machine. This is of the highest availability, and it leaked all your personal information. This is a blunder of magnitude. This is kind of like your password manager just handing out your password to whoever asked with the word please. This is also not super hard to execute on. This isn't like a super difficult CSV to deal with. You need to go to the NVD. Why is it not here? What did they do with it? I mean, I don't know why they're having problems. Maybe they used Calm AV and they've been hacked. But here, I'll link this. It has all the bug IDs in it. Not particularly difficult to execute. I can't show you because I guess there's a bug right now, but when the NIST library is back up, I do like looking at NIST. So this is a website run by the United States government. It's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. I don't know if it's standards and technology or just standards technology. I'm not sure. Anyways. Oh, wait. It's down here. National Institute of Standards and Technology. Yeah. Anyways. They keep a big database. And theirs is usually a good source of truth. Except in this case, where it happens to not work. Other than that, yeah. It will be a box on the hacker box test. It should be. I don't think Calm AV is free though. This is an article. This is an article that I found because I agree with it and I disagree with it. Is it paid? I thought it was paid. Oh, you thought it was open source? One second. Well, let me. I don't use Calm AVs. I thought it was Cisco. I didn't know that Cisco did open source really. So this is probably, there is no like GitHub link. How am I supposed to find its code without a link? Oh, wait. It is on GitHub. It is on GitHub. So, I happen to lie to you again. It's under the GPL 2. Well, I've never promised to be the most truthful YouTuber, streamer out there. Never promised. It is in fact open source. So it should be on the on Hack the Box. Thanks, Russell, for pointing that out. I've never used it, but all right. Dennis, the core a maintainer of Core.js. I wanted to talk about this because Core.js chief complains open source is broken, no one will pay for it. And he's not wrong. And it is a problem. I don't think the solution to the problem is asking people to pay for something you're giving away for free. I don't think that is. And don't get me wrong, I think companies should start pulling their own weight. I just think that we need to go around it a bit unique way. And I have been noodling on some ideas. I actually have one that I think is actually a pretty good idea. Unfortunately, it would just require funding, and I don't really want funding because that requires people to be involved that would want to have a say in how it operates. So I think we need to actually take a step back and think about how we monetize open source and the people that work on it. I think that we could come up with a creative solution to it. But yeah, he's not wrong. If you're giving it away for free, nobody's gonna pay for it. That's we should find some ways to get people paid for open source. I think that would be fantastic. I actually think that this would be a great place for governments to hire some people. Not that that's the correct solution. But if governments think that it's a benefit to their society, which it is, you know. But, all right, moving on. This was just because it was written in Rust to solve a problem of Python. So the best Python linter out there is written in Rust. I had to bring this up because I saw it, and I don't use it because I don't use Python, but if I did. So, Russell, I have thought about this. There needs to be a license change, the same way as Unreal Engine, where if you don't make money off of it, use it as much as you like. If you make little money off of it, use it as much as you like. But once you hit $1 million a year, maybe you can pay us for it. It's not open source anymore. Technically, by the Open Source Foundation, that's not open source anymore. But I think that's a possible solution. I'm not sure if it's the best solution. But you're right. It's not working for the maintainers. Not a lot of the maintainers. Now, some maintainers work for these companies like Google, and they get to work on open source, and that's great. And I'm happy that they get to do that, but that's not a lot of us. A lot of us do it in our spare time, in our free time, because we're passionate about it, because we want to solve the problem, and we like the community. But at the same time, there is that eventual drag. So I don't know if that's the right way. But that is one of the ways that I have thought of like making a new open source license. That's like, yeah, the code's available. You're allowed to, use it freely. We'd have to think about how you'd redistribute it. Are people allowed to redistribute it? I guess they would be, as long as the redistribution of it fell under the same terms. So if you use it, you'd have to just fall under the same terms. I am actually really worried about the culture shift in big tech. If they cut down on spending, are they going to cut down on having people work on these open source projects. I think that it could hurt the communities as a whole quite a bit. Um, yeah, I that will be something that I'm watching. Actually, I didn't show it a whole lot because people didn't really like it in my people don't like it when I say anything negative about Kubernetes. Let me be clear. Anytime that I say something that could be uh, considered negative, I get downvoted very quickly. Um, but one thing that I pointed out over the last two release notes was that the contributors and the companies contributing to the Kubernetes ecosystem is actually steadily going down. It's steadily decreasing. And this has been happening for the last year and a half. Um, and I agree, Russell. I think something needs to change. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have the answers to it. It's why I brought this up. It's why I find these articles and read about them, because it's something that is on my mind about these communities can be expensive to run. I mean, like, not even just monetary, but like the effort to do them. The effort to run my community is a decent amount of effort, and it's not even a big community. If it was a big community, it would be a lot of work. So I do think either open source needs to change, or we need to change how we use and consume it. I'm not entirely sure exactly what I mean by that, but along those lines, yeah. Or a new standard. I guess it can't be open source because that's trademarked by what's their faces, the Open Source Committee. Um, but another source available license. I don't know. I don't know what the right solution is. But we should talk about it. Yeah, public source. Maybe public source would be good. I love open source because I'm very open about it. It's how I learned to code. I didn't go to school for it. And I learned by a lot of other people's work that they put out there, and I'm super grateful for that, and I want to continue that. It's like half of the reason I do this YouTube channel. Um, I guess this is on Twitch, but my YouTube channel. Yeah. Oh, that's why it held it. It held your message, and I was like, I don't know why it held this. Silly thing. And now it added that term as a permitted term. Oh, that's amazing. I'll have to find that list and unpermit that. I just read it really quickly, so I didn't even notice. It's hilarious. It, um, yeah, no, I actually like that. Free to the public, paid for private corporations. Another article that I saw, I'm gonna post this. I wanted to bring it up. I actually disagree with this one. I disagree with it. Um, but I like bringing these up so that we all can talk about them. I love building a startup in Rust. I wouldn't pick it again. And the reason I disagree is I don't actually disagree with anything that he said in this whole entire article. I actually agree with everything that he says. But basically, his reason he wouldn't use it is because he got like 20,000 or something. He didn't get the whole 100,000. He got some credits. And so the efficiency and whatnot didn't make sense for him. And I'll be like, okay, well, that's okay. You don't need that because you can worry about scaling later. That's okay stance to take. But then he completely missed the benefits: safety, readability, and expressiveness. The only thing that they have was slower iterations, which makes me think that they didn't use Rust a lot. Because it's true, if you're brand new to Rust, and I will always say this, you need to pick the right tool for the job. If your entire team doesn't know Rust, I'm going to let you in on a secret. I don't think Rust is the best tool for you. I really don't. I love Rust. I think it's safe. I think it's super expressive. I think I can write the same code in Rust that would take me many, many, many more lines of Go. And for that, I love it. It also fails fast. He didn't put that one in there. But if you don't know it and you know Go and you're a startup, he's absolutely right. You need to write it in something that you can iterate on quickly and get out the door. And that's important. And Go is good enough at most of those things, except for failing fast. It fails in production. So I guess that's just I think he's right. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. But that's my other take on it. You always need to pick the right tool for the job. Every single time. Other than that, the only thing that I really saw were these two articles here. VMware Broadcom extend merger close deadline by 3 months. This is interesting. This was a huge $61 billion merger, and they're kind of pushing it out by 90 days. This was a huge 2020 thing. One of the largest deals getting Broadcom into the enterprise software market. Not sure. Now, there's like EU antitrust things going on. I don't know if it's because of these types of things that are driving this extension, or if there's something else behind the scenes in the economy that's driving it. I'm not sure. This was interesting to me. But I don't know more on this as I just saw this. And the last thing I want to talk, hopping ahead, Bunny CDN ranked the fastest CDN of January 2023 on CDN Perf. Now, that being said, there are clear winners and there are clear losers in this. I want to point out that Cloudflare is within, and it's not even 1 whole millisecond slower. Not even 1 whole millisecond slower. So all of these in the top 7 are within like 1 millisecond of each other. Probably can't go wrong with anything in the top green. That being said, these down here, you should just, blazing CDN is not blazing fast. It's blazing, it's burning its servers down is what's happening. That's how slow it is. That's how slow it is. I was surprised to see Akamai CDN being so fast. Did you know? I did not know that Akamai bought Linode. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Linode is now Akamai. It even says it right there. Ah. I never announced that in the news. And yeah, now if you go to Linode, it says Akamai. I did not know that. 47 seconds is 47 seconds is slow if you're a CDN. I don't know. It just says Akamai everywhere now. February 15th. What year? What year? 2022, I'm guessing. So it's been about a year now. This was probably. I have no idea what they're testing. Oh, I mean, it was just querying it. The thing I didn't realize was AWS's CloudFront was that fast. I wouldn't have expected AWS to beat Cloudflare. So I guess this was done by a third party. Who was it? CDN Perf was the one doing it. So I don't know where they're doing it from. But part of having a CDN is having a massive network so you can deliver it close to wherever. But you're right, this could artificially hurt some people if they had a hole in their network. I'm guessing that CDN Perf does it globally distributed because that's what you'd need to do to test. And this would be like average across the world. But again, I don't know. Yeah, see, they have like performance by region here. Yeah, is on a global average. Anyways, I just found that interesting. A bunch of them are just fine. For real. Except in South America. Now that I'm seeing that, check this out. Oh my gosh. Nobody does CDN in South America. Oh no, this is Africa. My bad. South America. Nobody does CDN in Africa very well. That's rough. I wouldn't have expected it to be that bad across all of them. I wouldn't have expected Europe to be the second worst. Oh no. Again, that's Asia. Asia is the second worst. Europe is good. I would not have expected these. I would not have expected these results. Globally on AWS. I don't know where CDN Perf does it. I can't tell you. I probably should have looked into it. I don't know. They've got to have their own, right? Or else it wouldn't be a very good test. I mean, maybe it's not a good test. I don't know. Actually, 100% what Russell is saying. Benchmarks are wild. It's very difficult to be fair. He's not wrong. I like to call it out when he is wrong, but he's not wrong here. Performance is so subjective, and it's so much what you're trying to get out of it. And you really need to read performances with those. You know, like you could look at this, and it could be that like this CDN is like geared towards a single region. Maybe it only serves a single region. So it's average, but maybe in that single region, maybe in Africa, it has 10 milliseconds. But its average across the world is really slow because it only has that one region. And so if your app targets that region, well, then it might be the best one for you. You were wrong when you typed public. Yes, you were. So this is always it's always really good to take these with a grain of salt, but also to think critically on them. You know, what we can take away from this is these probably all have really good global distribution because this is an average of global. Now, what you can't take away from this and what you can't assume from this is just about query. Now, you can also look at their uptime. So this is another metric. And yeah, this does not put Bunny at the top, although it's not bad again. Um, this is their uptime. I wouldn't have expected AWS to be this low on it, but 99.2 isn't horrible. It's not great though. But then this also doesn't say with payload. With a CDN, you actually it's a content delivery network. So maybe some of these are better at delivering large payloads. Maybe some are better at delivering small payloads. I don't know. And the fact is, these graphs aren't going to tell you. It might tell you that you probably don't want to use a Arvan cloud if you want worldwide coverage. Probably, probably not. Actually, I'm kind of surprised that none of them have made 99.9. I would have expected AWS and Google to be 99.9. And those would have been the only ones. I'm wondering if this data isn't pure because they were saying all results are based on real user metric data from users all over the world. I'm wondering if some of these are maybe false downtime. I don't know. Right. Okay. Actually, they're proving exactly what I'm saying. RUM uptime shows the uptime of CDN providers as measured by real users. Due to bad internet connections, this number can contain false. I called it. This is what I was saying. I almost guarantee you that most of these are 99.9. Every 9 after that gets exponentially more expensive. I think it's a classic mistake. A small company should not aim for 99.99 uptime. Shouldn't engineer for it. You shouldn't engineer not for it. So don't mistake my words as saying you shouldn't worry about it. It's like saying that you can plan to scale, but you don't have to make your app scale perfectly right now. And the same for your uptime. You can do things to make sure that you can achieve that in the future, but you don't need to shoot for 99.99% uptime at the beginning. Yeah, and I mean the B2B contracts I get they do some stipulate it, but not everything on AWS has a 99.99. A lot of their service has 3 9s and a 5. I call it the 395. Like their Kubernetes control plane is only 3 9s. It doesn't even have the 5. So not everything in AWS even has 4 9s. So I think it shoots a lot of small companies in the foot. Oh yeah, and so like if you want to use Kubernetes and you actually want to have a contract that has 99.99 uptime, there are two ways to do it. It's risk. You're saying, well, I'll take the risk that AWS doesn't cause an outage for me, which then makes me have to pay my customer millions of dollars. So there's risk. Or you have to say, well, in that case, I'll have 3 Kubernetes clusters that I load balance everything across that are replicas of each other so I can lose any one of them and not be hit by it. Either way, it's super expensive and has a lot of engineering or just really risky. I think offering a 99.9 is a very valid out of the gate, very acceptable. And yeah, maybe you'll have a contract that needs more than that, and you can jump that hurdle when you get to it. That's my startup advice for you today. Shoot for 99%. uh, I think sometimes in our goal to achieve 99.949s, we sometimes shoot ourselves in the foot with this added complexity that a small team can't handle and actually cause our own downtime trying to achieve higher uptime by making a more complicated system that the number of engineers we can afford can't sustain. 99.5 is probably fine. Yep. Yep. I agree. Not with your spelling, but with most of the other stuff that you've said. Well, I want to apologize for getting a late start. Again, completely my bad. There's no reason I couldn't have started on time other than just bad time management. That's on me. I want to thank everybody for coming out and joining us this Sunday. I hope that your week goes well. I hope that we have a good week. I hope that we're able to have some productiveness. One last thing. I'm completely forgot to mention this because I was late. On Tuesday, we are having our second office hours. For assembly line. So if you want to join in on that community, if you want to argue about how YAML sucks, then yeah, join us and we'll have some fun. I'll stream it though, so you if you just want to listen in, you can join the stream. I'm just gonna stream it, and it will stream to YouTube as well. So if you just want to watch it later, you can. All right. Well, thanks everyone again. It was awesome. I'll be streaming Tuesday twice, once for our office hours, once in the evening to work on some stuff. So I will see you all later.